As the train pulled into the station, it seemed like any other ordinary evening. The platform was dimly lit, and the only sound was the gentle hum of the locomotive's engine. Johnathan Grayson stepped off the train, his briefcase in hand, and surveyed his surroundings. He was a man of routine, and this was just another business trip. But little did he know, this trip would be anything but ordinary. As he made his way through the deserted station, a sense of unease crept over him. The shadows seemed to dance around him, whispering secrets he couldn't quite make out. He shrugged it off as exhaustion from the long journey and headed towards the hotel where he would be staying for the night. The hotel, a grand old building with a history as mysterious as the town itself, loomed before him. As he entered, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt heavy, as if it were holding on to secrets of its own. The receptionist greeted him with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, and Johnathan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He checked into his room, a spacious suite on the top floor, and settled in for the night. But sleep eluded him. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant sound, seemed amplified in the stillness of the night. He tossed and turned, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't quite grasp. The next morning, Johnathan woke up feeling more tired than when he had gone to bed. He glanced at the clock and realized he had overslept. Hurriedly, he got ready for his meeting, trying to shake off the strange sense of foreboding that lingered from the night before. As he looked into the mirror to straighten his tie, he froze. Behind him, in the reflection, stood a figure. It was hazy and indistinct, but he could make out the outline of a man. He turned around, but there was no one there. He shook his head, attributing it to a trick of the light, and left the room. Throughout the day, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was as if the eyes of the town were upon him, judging his every move. He tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept drifting back to the strange occurrences of the past night. That evening, Johnathan decided to explore the town. He wandered through its winding streets, each one seemingly identical to the last. The town was eerily quiet, devoid of the usual hustle and bustle of everyday life. He passed by abandoned storefronts and boarded-up houses, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the hotel. As he turned a corner, he stumbled upon an old bookstore. Intrigued, he entered and was greeted by a musty smell that hinted at the passage of time. The shelves were filled with dusty old books, their titles faded and unreadable. He picked one up at random and blew off the dust, revealing the title, Echoes of the Past, A History of Our Town. Curiosity piqued, he flipped through the pages and discovered a wealth of information about the town's history. It was founded centuries ago by a group of settlers fleeing persecution. They believed the town was a place of refuge, a sanctuary from the outside world. But as he delved deeper into the book, he realized that the town had a dark secret. That night, as Johnathan lay in bed, he heard it. A faint whispering, like the rustle of leaves in the wind. He sat up, listening intently. The sound seemed to be coming from the walls themselves, as if the very building were speaking to him. He got out of bed and followed the sound, which led him to a hidden passage behind a bookshelf. Curiosity getting the better of him, he ventured into the passage. It was dark and musty, with cobwebs clinging to the walls. As he walked further, the whispering grew louder, echoing around him. He finally reached a small chamber, illuminated by a single flickering candle. In the center of the room stood a mirror, its surface reflecting the dim light. But as he approached, he realized that it wasn't his reflection staring back at him. It was the figure he had seen in his room, the hazy outline of a man. He reached out to touch the mirror, but his hand passed through it, as if it were made of mist. Suddenly, the room filled with a blinding light. Johnathan shielded his eyes, unable to see anything. When the light faded, he found himself standing in a different place altogether. It was the same town, but it was bustling with life. People were going about their business, laughing and chatting as if nothing had changed. Confused, Johnathan tried to find his way back to the hotel, but the streets seemed to shift and change around him. He realized he was trapped in a loop, reliving the same day over and over again. The town was a prison, a place where time stood still. Desperate to escape, he searched for answers. He learned that the town was cursed, stuck in a perpetual cycle of despair. The figure in the mirror was a trapped soul, doomed to wander the town for eternity. And now, Johnathan was trapped too, a victim of the town's dark secret. But Johnathan refused to accept his fate. He delved deeper into the town's history, searching for a way out. He discovered an ancient ritual that could break the curse, but it required a sacrifice. He knew what he had to do. Gathering his courage, he confronted the figure in the mirror. It pleaded with him, begging for release. With a heavy heart, Johnathan performed the ritual, sacrificing himself to break the curse. As the light enveloped him, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. And then, Everything went black. When Johnathan woke up, he was back on the train, just as it was pulling into the station. But this time, something was different. The shadows no longer whispered, and the air was no longer heavy with foreboding. He stepped off the train, feeling a sense of freedom he hadn't felt in a long time. As he made his way through the station, he realized that the town was gone. In its place stood a bustling city, full of life and energy. He had broken the curse, freeing himself and the town from its endless loop. But as he walked through the city streets, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. And somewhere, in the depths of his mind, he heard a faint whisper, echoing the words of the figure in the mirror. "Thank you."